In the past, you saw me creating a lot of machine learning apps with open source models and tools. Well, although they are fun to experiment with, and they probably are more advanced in some sense, if you are working in an organization, choose to be told these open source tools are useless. Your security is probably not going to let you to use them. So it is important that we learn enterprise grade tools like Azure or Amazon or Google Cloud. Now, in my previous video, we have to try to create this enterprise search app using Azure OpenAI with the Microsoft's repo on the GitHub. Now, in the last bit of that video, I was not able to replace it with my own files. So I have figured out a way with a different repo, slightly different method that I'm going to show you in this video to replace it with your own files. Let's get started. Now, a big shout out to Ajit. We're going to use his repo, which is basically a fork of the original one. You can see it's very, very similar. What we're going to do differently this time is we're going to clone the repo to your local VS Code and then deploy it. Now, if you have never done Azure's deployment before using your local PC, there are a few things you need to get ready. First, you're going to go to Node.js website to install for Windows. Next, go back to your VS Code. You're going to run this command to set up the Azure CAI tools for VS Code. And also, you're going to go to the extension Marketplace, search for Azure tools, and install that for your VS Code. Now, this is the full list of the prerequisites. Make sure you guys check it out. Because we are running it locally this time, so there's a bit to prepare. Last time we just used GitHub Codespace, which is super easy. The IDE just gets spun out straight away into the browser. This time there's a bit to do, and you probably need to make sure you have the Git as well if you've never done that before on your computer. And of course, make sure you have the Azure OpenAI subscription activated. Now, to get started, first thing, we're going to clone the repo to your local computer. So go to the code, select local HTTPS, copy this URL, and paste that back to your VS Code. Back at VS Code, click on Explorer, clone repository, paste your URL, enter, pick a location to save it. Let's just save here. VS Code, OpenAI, and it's downloading. Open. Here we go. That is the repo now being cloned to your local VS Code. Now, before we start, I just want to show you in my Azure prescription, there is no resource groups under here. Once we finish the app deployment with Azure, you should see the app appearing here, okay? So the first thing is to create a folder and switch to that in the terminal. Now we're gonna log into Azure and run this initializing command to initialize the project. Now it says here for the target location, you need to be in the East US or South Central US. Now make sure you only select East US because that's what's in the script. If you choose different location, it will fail unless you modify the script, which is not what we're doing here, okay? So let's go create a new folder. Call it internal search, and we're gonna switch to this folder. Open your terminal. We're gonna do the logging. So don't do either logging, that's old command, to either auth logging, either the auth logging. Pick your account, which make sure it has enough permission to provision Azure resources. Go back to, now you probably didn't see, it's a login page. I logged in, and now it shows logged in to Azure. Next, we're going to initialize the project with this command. So you need to give a new environment name. I call it internal search. This is going to be appearing in your Azure resource group later on, so you can see. Okay. Project has been initialized. Now, if we come back to your own folder, you see all these pretty much the same folder structure as these ones outside. Okay, but we're going to work within your own folder. Now, notice there is a docs folder which initialized, the data folder, which initialized with the same sample file of healthcare we see from the previous demo. So you want to delete that and replace it with your own files. You can see I have uploaded 2 files to the data folder. One is the Tesla earnings, another is the investor deck. And we just need to run AZ up to deploy the Azure app. Select your subscription. Make sure don't just hit enter because this is what caught me in the first time. Select US East only. Arrow up and go enter. Okay, I think we are nearly at the end of our demo. This is how easy to deploy an Azure app. Thanks to the folks at Microsoft who already made it. And all we needed to do is just tweak it with our own data. Now the deployment is usually going to take up to 20 minutes. While we're waiting, I'm just going to quickly show you what we are actually building here. Now this is a sample app for retrieval augmented generation pattern. Now, if you remember my previous video with ChatGPT and LangChain, we are also using the retrieval chain to do the Q&A retrieval. Okay, so this is exactly the same. And if we look into the scripts here, now this pre-doc script is pretty much to load the file to do the data ingestions. And it does very similar stuff like we did with the LangChain. It just basically turn the text into chunks and convert them into the vectors. If we have a look at this requirement text, it tells you it's using the same PyPDF library, which means in the data folder, the only supported format in this sample app is only going to be PDF. And here is some hint here. It has an Azure storage blob. So maybe in our part 3 video, we'll try to see whether we can modify this and connect directly with Azure storage blob, and then it will be enterprise ready. Okay, so let's take a break and we'll wait for the Azure deployment to finish. Just a quick disclaimer, guys, that my deployment actually failed. So what I did is I deleted this whole folder, and also I renamed it. You can see a different name now. I went back to my Azure, deleted the resource groups, and then just round the AZ up again. You can see I initialized the project one more time, and I ran the AZ up. Also give it a different name. I just had an odd error. Okay. Anyway, so it is now finished. It took about 20 minutes. And here's a link. So you are finished. We just need to click on the link and test out the app. And you can also see this file I uploaded. So our private data did not get replaced after the deployment being run, unlike last time. Okay. So let's click on click on this endpoint. Go open. Now we are back at this very familiar interface again. And let's ask a couple questions. Remember, our data now is the Tesla. So let's ask, how much money did Tesla make last quarter? And you can also see these developer settings on the side that you can tune the model to behave differently. Okay, this one says, according to Tesla, blah, 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 and it quoted the correct PDF file. Let's ask one more question. What is the best-selling cars in Tesla according to Model Y? Right, so what we try to get here is see how close it can perform like a ChatGPT, which it will give you the actual answers as well as the citation. Right. Unlike Power Virtual Agents, sometimes it just gives you a link without giving you the answers. Now, with this model, it should be able to, because it's powered by OpenAI, so it should be able to give you a pretty good reasoning in terms of the answers. Should be able to summarize stuff. So let's say list its key metrics in the table format. Now this is something that Power Virtual Agent is definitely not able to do. Let's see whether this, okay, see, it did that. It's pretty good. Let's try one more question, maybe. Can you summarize its earnings in dot points? Again, this is something that Power Virtual Agent is not going to do. And notice I used it, so the bot knows the context. It knows it means it's a Tesla. Okay, sure, here is a key point of Tesla earnings based on the resource provided. So it listed all the key metrics in the dot points and also quoted the citations. Right. So you get an idea that pretty much this is giving you a very ChatGPT-like experience. Coming to the developer settings here, you can replace with your own prompts. I understand this is powered by the Azure OpenAI 3.5 model. So it supports system message to define a role of the bot. Retrieve as many documents. Okay, so maximum is 3. You can see one of our question here. The last one, it has quoted 3 reference. If you have more than that, it won't be quoted. Okay, and then you can definitely change that. Funny thing is, what are these 2 documents? Because I only have 2 documents uploaded. Maybe let's click on that. All right, so this is the first document. I know this one, Q1 2023. All right. Now, what is the other ones? Click on update 2. What is that one? Oh, okay. So this is actually the page is cited. That's very good. It's not just throwing a link to the whole file. It's actually telling me which page it is. Page 0, page 2. This is on the 10Q's page 3. Let's check that. Oops. All right. It happens, still early days. Fun of live demo. Where you can actually see this is invest update page 0, page 20, and it just picked up all the best answers. And it gives you a thought process. For example, is searching Tesla Q1 2023 earnings summary dot points. This is a prompt system has give, and then you looked through the sources, and then you actually, wow, this is quite impressive that Microsoft has built an app like this, and we could just use it. Okay, that is the end of demo. Now, in this part 2 of our ChatGPT Enterprise data search with Azure OpenAI, we are able to replace the data source with our own file, which we failed in the first video. Now, to make it a real enterprise-ready app, you need to do more than that. In this app, we see the limitation is the formats of the files. What we were able to find out is using the PyPDF library. That's why the format in this file that's supported is only PDF. Now, watching my other video, you will know by using different library, you should be able to bring all kinds of different type of files. But that is not the end goal. You cannot just throw in local files manually. The end goal is to be able to connect to the Azure blob storage. So you can read the data from your SharePoint or ServiceNow or something else. And eventually it will be usable in an enterprise environment, and you can deploy the app to a web app so your staff can use it. Now, hopefully I will have a part 3 of this video once I worked out how to do that. And thanks for watching. Bye for now. Oh, one more thing. I forgot to show you what's the Azure portal look like after the deployment. So when you come to your subscription, click on resource groups, you can see this new one that's been created as part of the application deployment. If you open that, you should see all the resources, which you can match them up in your VS Code logs in the terminal window. And cost analysis, just something you guys need to be really careful. It is very expensive to have it here, even you're not using it. So my suggestion is, as soon as you finish your demo, come back here and delete the resource group. Don't leave it running, guys. Don't leave it running.